Well, it's been a busy day. U.S. President Donald Trump and China's Xi Jinping meeting face-to-face for the first time at Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. The president himself tweeting last week that the high-stakes meeting was likely going to be a difficult one, given America's massive trade deficit with China, as well as North Korea's continuing nuclear provocations. VOA's Bill Ide has more from Beijing.
Just days before their meeting, President Trump issued 2 executive orders calling for a review of trade deficits and pledging severe consequences for those who cheat on trade. He did not mention China specifically, but did tweet about Chinese trade practices before signing the orders. Xi's 2-day visit to Florida is unlikely to resolve such complex issues, analysts say, but it could help set relations on a better path.
Clearly, President Xi Jinping is looking to establish a working relationship with President Trump so that the two sides can go through the many issues that are on the bilateral agenda. A strong personal relationship, working relationship, is crucial to achieving the bilateral goals from both sides.
Clearly, China is listening, and Beijing is trying to play up how it can help make America great again and address imbalances. Beijing denies it is deliberately seeking a trade surplus.
China will further increase domestic demand and will also raise demand for foreign goods and services, including those from the United States. Chinese investment in the U.S. has been rising rapidly in recent years.
And joining us now to discuss what might otherwise have been one of our top stories, we welcome back White House correspondent Pete Heinlein, and we say hello to our very own Steve Miller, host of VOA's Asia in a Minute. Thank you both for being here. Pete, this has been a busy week for anyone covering the White House, especially given all the meetings that are taking place right now. How is the meeting between these two leaders going so far?
Well, on the surface, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, they had dinner last night, right?
That's right, and you have to say, President Trump is a good host. He has a beautiful place there. He puts on a big spread, although I saw the bottles of wine were, I think, $11 each, but that's neither here nor there.
Are you accusing the president of being cheap?
It was very inexpensive wine that you can buy at the grocery store.
Let's watch where you end up sitting on the press row next time.
That's right. On the other hand, he did make a comment off the cuff saying, haven't gotten anything yet in his negotiations, and I think that's where we are right now.
Trying to inject a little bit of humor in there, but there's some weighty issues to discuss here, Steve Miller, everything from trade to North Korea, but all of a sudden, Syria has to be up there as well as one of the talking points. I'm sure China might have something to say about this.
Well, I think there was a lot of eyes on this meeting between President Trump and President Xi Jinping. The expectations, as we heard in Bill Ide's piece, that this would set forward the avenue for good communications between the two countries, but the overall expectations that some kind of deal would be achieved wouldn't necessarily come through to fruition. So now that we have the Syria attack and the strike against the airstrip that launched those chemical weapons attacks, it does set the tone for what the United States may be willing to do moving forward in terms of North Korean policy, which is one of the top agenda items.
Pete, in the best case scenario, what would the United States like to achieve from these meetings?
The United States does have short-term goals. They'd like to hear something that the trade deficit is going to be, the Chinese are going to do something on trade deficit.
Are they likely to do something on the trade deficit? Can they do anything?
The Chinese are not really interested in that. The Chinese look at this in atmospheric terms. They want a statement to come out of this about win-win cooperation, about mutual respect. And so I think there's a difference of goals here, and the Chinese will probably prevail.
But Steve, I imagine the Syrian attack is likely to send a strong message to China regarding North Korea as well, right?
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that next week is the 105th anniversary of North Korean founder Kim Il-sung. It's widely regarded as one of the most important holidays in North Korea, the Day of the Sun. And typically North Korea either launches a series of ballistic missiles or carries out a massive medium or long-range missile.
We can expect big parades, basically.
You can expect a big parade. You can probably expect either a long-range missile. Last year, they launched a satellite into orbit. There's a lot of activity near the Punggye-ri nuclear test site, so there could be a nuclear test next week. So there's a lot of speculation of how the Syria attack could play into how the United States would respond, because we've heard statements over the last month or so that all options are on the table.
Pete, is North Korea likely watching a situation right now that's developing out there?
North Korea is watching intently, one can be absolutely sure. And if nothing else, the foreign policy, the first foreign policy thing that people are talking about today is the triangulation. Who's watching? Yes, Syria is watching, and the Russians are watching, but the Chinese are watching, and the North Koreans.
What's China able to do, though, in that situation? They have been North Korea's longtime ally, but they've not been really able to do much to control their little brother so far.
When you speak to analysts about North Korea and the Chinese influence, they've said that over time, especially in the last few years as Kim Jong-un has asserted his control in Pyongyang, is that the influence of China, of Beijing, has steered more towards the economic swing of things rather than political influence. And other analysts I've spoken to have said that as long as North Korea doesn't really affect Chinese interests, then Pyongyang will be allowed to continue its activities as long as it doesn't skew too far out of the norm.
Pete, I know yesterday was a dinner meeting with the first ladies of both countries, and they seem to be very congenial to each other. But today is when the brass tacks come out. This is when they start talking issues.
Well, this is the moment. Yes, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. At this moment, we really don't know what's going to be the outcome. But we do know that Xi Jinping is a veteran at this type of thing. Mr. Trump is a novice.
And we're going to be counting on you, Pete, and you, Steve, to keep us posted on all the developments. I thank you, Pete Heinlein and Steve Miller, but that is all the time we have. We hope you'll join us again next week for another edition of The Correspondents. In the meantime, stay up to date with the latest world news at voanews.com. Do check out all of our shows there. All you got to do, click on the Watch tab on the upper right and pick your program. We're also on Facebook and YouTube at VOA The Correspondents. I'm Mil Arcega. Thank you for watching. For now, so long from Washington.